hits the brakes to re-justify the premise. It just feels like spinning wheels when we should be moving forward. So the suggestion, not justification. Take Chapter 4. It opens with all this text re-explaining the feeling of your brain racing at.
We don't need it.
We don't. The improvement is to just cut that whole explanation of the glitch. Just get rid of it. Imagine if Chapter 4 just started cold with the technique.
You mean just jump right into the drill?
Yeah. We use the actor's anchor technique, moving your hands to dictate the speed of your syllables. Instantly, the reader is in doing mode. It changes the whole dynamic. It's not a teacher explaining a concept anymore.
It's a coach spotting you on the bench.
That is the perfect analogy for this book. And I saw the same thing in Chapter 6 with silent learning. It spends paragraphs explaining why reading in your head doesn't make you a better speaker. The logic's sound, of course.
Sure, passive input doesn't create active output. We get it.
But we don't need a whole dissertation on it.
No. Condense the why into one sentence. Passive input does not create active output. Boom. Done. That immediately hit them with what you could call a transition drill.
Okay, I like that name. What does a drill like that actually look like?
Well, instead of explaining the gap between knowing and doing, you make the reader feel it. The drill would be something like, read this next paragraph silently. Okay, now close your eyes out loud.
Oh, that's brutal.
It is. They'll stumble. They'll use filler words. They'll fail. And that failure teaches the lesson far better than any explanation could. They feel the gap. Explanation could. They feel the gap.
It's show don't tell. You make me stumble and I'll believe you. You just tell me I'm going to stumble and I might just, roll my eyes.
Precisely. Now, speaking of the actual training, there's let's call it a quality control issue in Chapter 3. The section on clusters and making words move like music.
Ah, yes. I know exactly where you're going with this. The Gunna and Lemmy examples.
That's the one. And look, linguistically, it's not wrong. That is how we speak in casual conversation. But you have to think about the audience for this book.
Right, someone trying to get better at professional communication.
Yeah, someone who needs to present to a board or pitch an investor. Telling them to say, I'm gonna do this is, it's risky advice. It can come across as dumbing down their speech.
It really can. There's a very fine line between sounding fluid and sounding lazy. If I'm in a salary negotiation and I say, let me tell you what I'm gonna do, it just completely changes the tone.
It totally undermines your authority. So the real risk here is that the reader ends up losing articulation. The goal is clarity, not just slurring words together.
So we need to draw a line between what? Lazy blurring and
intentional catenation. Yeah, that's the professional skill. So this examples, get rid of wanna and gonna and use a more professional phrase.
Okay, like what?
Take something like current market trends. A robotic speaker says current market trends. Very choppy. Right. A lazy speaker just kind of mushes it all together. Current market trends. But a professional speaker uses the consonants as bridges. The text should show how the T in market can lightly tap the T in trends without a full stop. Market trends. The breath connects them, it's smooth, but it's still crisp. You don't lose the integrity of the words. That's a much more valuable skill to teach.
It elevates the entire book. It's not just how to talk faster. It's how to speak with executive presence. I think you could even frame it as, 3 different modes. Show them robotic speech. What are you doing? Then casual speech. What you doing? And then give them the professional medium. What are you doing? Explain where the breath connects. It gives them a clear, work-safe target. That clarity is definitely missing right now. Okay, moving on to the actual drills. Chapter 9, pressure proofing. The idea is to simulate stress so you don't freeze under pressure.
And this part is so close to being great, but it slightly misses the mark on what pressure actually is. The drills are things like walking while jumping jacks.
Which are fine. I've done those. They're good for building your ability to multitask, right? It builds cognitive resilience. But here's the weakness. Doing jumping jacks alone in your living room does not replicate the psychological pressure of another human being looking at you. It's physical distraction, not social anxiety.
Exactly. But then you freeze the second your boss raises an eyebrow in a meeting. The drills are too solitary, they're too safe.
That's a huge point. The cortisol spike from public speaking is about judgment, not about being out of breath.
So the suggestion is to create what we can call low-stakes social microdrills. We need to bridge that gap between, yelling alone in your hallway and giving a real presentation. You have to add a human.
I love that term, low-stakes social micro-drills. So give me a concrete example. What does that look like?
Okay, so instead of speak louder while walking, you give them the barista drill. The instruction is to go to a coffee shop, plan a slightly complex order, 3 items, special requests, whatever.
Okay.
And the rule is you have to deliver that entire order in one continuous breath while making eye contact with the server.
Wow. Yeah, just thinking about that makes my palms sweat a little bit, which tells me it's probably a good drill.
It works because there's a real person there. There are stakes. If you mumble, they'll say what, and you feel awkward. That immediate feedback loop is so much more valuable than talking to a wall.
And it's so actionable. You can literally do it tomorrow morning. What about for people who work remotely? Do you have one for that?
Sure. The phone friend drill. The task is to leave a voicemail or a voice note for a friend, 30-second summary of your day or a movie you saw with 0 ums and no pauses. And you have to actually send it.
You have to send it. That's the key. Hitting send is the scary part.
Right.
It creates a permanent record. Knowing someone else will hear it puts you in a performance state, just like a real presentation. It adds accountability.
That's exactly what's missing. It operationalizes the whole thing, which I guess brings us to the last big hurdle, Chapter 10, the conclusion about identity. Yeah, this is where the whole thing just takes a sharp and honestly, a pretty disappointing turn. For 9 chapters, we're in the gym, drilling. It's all physical.
And then Chapter 10 feels like you walk into a therapy session.
Totally. All of a sudden, it's about giving yourself permission and stepping into your new self. It feels like a generic motivational speech tacked onto the end of a very technical manual.
It breaks the book's core promise. The hook is that speaking is a motor skill, not a personality trait. But the ending kind of says, just kidding, it's all in your head, just be more confident. It undermines all the physical work.
So we have to fix it. We have to ground that identity shift back in muscle memory. Identity shouldn't be a thought. It should be a posture. It should be a physical setting.
So instead of thinking your way to confidence, you act your way there.
Even more specific than that, we need to introduce something like identity repetition loops. The text says, rewrite your story. That's way too vague.
Right.
Instead, have the listener record the sentence, I am a clear and powerful speaker, but they have to record it in 3 distinct characters.
Okay, walk me through the characters.
First, they record it with high energy, loud, fast, almost excited. Second, with deep authority, slow. Third, with warm empathy, softer, maybe with a smile in their voice.
And listening back to that does what?
It provides physical proof. You're not just hoping you can sound authoritative, you're hearing your own voice doing it. Your brain gets the data that your muscles can produce that sound. It turns identity into a vocal setting you can just turn on.
That demystifies the whole idea of charisma. It makes presence a choice your vocal cords are making, not some magical quality you have to find.
And you can link it back to the actor's anchor from earlier. Suggest a physical trigger, like every time you roll your shoulders back and plant your feet, that's the cue for your brain to enter speaker mode.
That's brilliant. It makes the identity shift a physical action, not a mental hope. It keeps that motor skill metaphor going right to the very last page. Exactly. It ensures the book ends on a practical, physical note, not with a bunch of fluff. The message stays. You don't need permission, you just need reps. So if we zoom out, the foundation of Train Your Mouth to Talk is absolutely rock solid. That core idea that speaking is a sport, it's so liberating.
100%. It's a really strong guide. But to get it to the next level, the author just needs to be ruthless with the editing. Stop selling the problem over and over and just focus on the solutions.
Okay, so let's just recap the actionable punch list one more time.
Cut the redundancy. Explain the brain-mouth glitch once in Chapter 1, and then never again. Trust us. We get it.
Refine the cluster examples. Swap out gonna for something like market trends to teach professional flow, not bad habits.
Add social stakes to the drills. The barista drill and the phone friend drill are non-negotiable. They bridge practice and performance.
And finally, physicalize the identity chapter. End with an exercise, not a pep talk. prove that confidence is something you do with your body.
If the author makes those changes, this goes from a good book to, I think, the definitive manual on the topic. It would be undeniable. I completely agree. It's all there, it just needs some tightening. We would love to see a revised draft that fully commits to that vocal athlete identity. So to the author, take these adjustments, apply them, and send it back in. Let's see how strong this guide can really be. That's all for this critique. Now go train your mouth.
We're looking at a guide today called Train Your Mouth to Talk, which frames speaking not as a matter of confidence, but as a pure physical skill. It's really about athleticism for the voice.
Yeah, a gym-like regimen. I love that metaphor. But while the core idea is brilliant, the execution it just gets in its own way.
It really does. There's so much friction. It has this fantastic, empowering premise, but it feels defensive.
Completely. The author has built this really strong engine, the idea you can train your mouth like a muscle, but they keep stopping the car to explain how the engine works, over and over. The pacing and the argumentative redundancy. By the end of chapter 1, I was sold. Mind fast, mouth slow.
Then I hit chapter 4, and suddenly we're back at square one, re-explaining the glitch between the brain and the mouth. It's like the book doesn't trust that I was paying attention.